What's up, guys? Coach Brandon here. Now, in this lesson, I want to talk about the mentality of weight loss or weight gain, what you should expect in terms of results, and also how to stay consistent and make changes as you go. Because what we start with is definitely not what we're going to end with for several reasons. So let's talk about weight loss first, since that's usually the topic that people are most interested to start with. Now, when you're losing weight, there's a lot of news and advertisements and things that are advertising things like 30-day, 30 pounds in 30 days, things like that. Very rapid and quick results. You'll see a before and after that the people will claim only has 30 days in between. Now, a few things about that before we get into what is actual and sustainable weight loss from a scientific perspective. Now, a lot of those before and after pictures are often taken on the same day with different lighting, a lot of photo post editing, and also people flexing and then also pushing out their muscles, tanning, things like that. There's a lot of trickery going on there, and you're also not seeing the whole story. A lot of those people are also taking what I would call extracurricular supplements or anabolic steroids, things like that, to make them look different. And what this does is it makes us normal people or people that are not enhanced with those extra substances feel like we should be held to the same standard. Now, if I asked you the question, would you rather lose 15 pounds in 30 days, but put it back on in 60 days, or lose 15 pounds in 90 days and keep it off? The answer is you'd keep it off, right? So we're drawn to that immediacy, right? That instant gratification from our hard work. But we really need to switch our mindset to delayed gratification and focusing on the long game. Because the goal is not to lose or gain weight, it's to lose it or gain it and keep it on or keep it off, depending on which, right? So we want to create a more sustainable system that gives us a win over the long term. So when you're trying to lose weight, rather than focusing on 15 pounds in 30 days or something crazy like that, let's focus on losing 1% of your body weight per week, right? So if you're a 200-pound person, that means about 2 pounds per week. You're like, that doesn't seem like 30 pounds in 30 days, but do the math, right? Over 10 weeks, that's 20 pounds, right? How much better would you feel if you lost 20 pounds, right? And even better, knowing that you've done it in a way that's slow, sustainable, and also built habits that's going to help you keep it off long term, right? So it's not about that micro, that focus about the day or the week. It's really zooming out and looking at the macro perspective of how long it's going to take. So 1% of your body weight per week on average. Some weeks are going to be a little higher, some a little lower, but that's the average that we're looking for weight loss. And the cool thing is, as you start to lose weight, your metabolism is actually going to be reduced, your amount of energy that you require. So you may need to reduce your calories along the route, along the way, which we'll talk about in a second. But the 1% rule holds because as you're getting smaller, so does that goal number that you're looking for. Now, if your goal is to go in the opposite direction, you want to gain muscle, put it on. We want to be looking to gain 0.25 to 0.5% of your body weight per week. And they're like, well, why is it slower than the weight loss? Well, the process of building muscle is much more complicated and takes more time than just shedding body fat. So we need to scale back our expectations and also focusing on the fact that your goal probably isn't just to get bigger, unless you're like a football player or something like that. It's you want to put lean muscle on, which takes more time. So we want to move at a slower pace. So losing weight, 1% per week on average, gaining weight 0.25 to 0.5% a week on average, right? And that's why it's so important that we're recording our inputs and outputs, our food intake, and then also our weight and body fat and progress pictures to make sure we're on track between those two things. So what can happen in a weight loss or weight gain phase is you can hit something called the plateau. So you're losing 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, and then all of a sudden for like 2 weeks, you don't lose any weight. You're like, oh my God, it stopped working. Everything, the world is ending. Now, a couple things may be happening. One, you may just need to give it another week and all of a sudden things will click, right? We're not robots. Another thing is that as you started to lose weight, your metabolic needs have been reduced. So the amount you were eating at the start of the diet may be too much to encourage weight loss. So you'd want to scale it back. And when that occurs, you want to scale it back by no more than 10% of your calories per week. So you would just take out 100 or 200 calories, depending on what that 10% is, each week until you see the scale start to budge again, right? Now, the same thing, if you were in a weight gaining phase and you start to climb and climb, you're putting on that muscle at that appreciable rate of 0.25 to 0.5% per week, and then all of a sudden you plateau, you need to eat a little bit more, most likely. So same thing, we don't want to just like double our caloric intake. That would be crazy. We're just going to increase by about 10% per week until we start nudging that scale up again. Now, there is a limit to this. You may have been dieting for too long. So generally, I would suggest no more than 12 weeks for any diet that you're on, 16 weeks at the very outer edge in terms of the psychological stress and also metabolic stress of being in a diet, either gaining or losing, right? Really focusing on one specific nutrition goal. So if you reach that 16, week mark, that plateau may be very natural and it's time to scale back into something called maintenance, which we'll talk about later. So that is your kind of corresponding variance between the two ranges that you'd want, that 1% and that 0.25 or 0.5% in either direction. Either way that you're going, you need to focus on this idea that fast is going to be failure and slow is going to be success, right? Like back to that original example. It's like, do you want to lose the weight quickly or do you want to lose it over a longer period of time and actually keep it off, or vice versa for putting the weight on for building muscle? The idea that we're so focused on in the fitness industry of fast results needs to be removed for you and think about, am I doing the micro habits, right? That the behavior changes that I can focus on a daily basis, right? The most important elements in all this are consistency and time, right? Think of it like investing, right? If you invest $100 and you keep checking it every single day, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But if you invest $100 over time, just keep investing automatically, right? Like, and focusing on compound interest, that dollar cost average type of investing, all of a sudden you're going to look at your principal and look at the amount of money that you have in there. You're going to be like, oh my God, what is this? And it's the same thing for either weight loss or muscle gain, right? It's like you just keep investing the money, in your case, investing the time and the habits, and all of a sudden the results will come. Just focus on the small work as you go, and that needs to be your mindset. You need to have a plan, right? How you're going to eat, what meals you're going to eat, and then adjust the plan as you go as needed. So the adjustments that you can make over time are, if you plateau, you can incrementally reduce calories and or slightly increase your activity level if your goal is weight loss. If your goal is weight gain or muscle gain, you can slightly increase your caloric intake on a daily basis by about 10% and or add like an extra day of training in as well, which we'll cover more in our training section of the course, right? But from a dietary perspective, those are your primary ways to tweak things. Now, another way that you can tweak your inputs is to play around with your proportion of macronutrient intake as well. We're going to cover that in a subsequent lesson, but there are several tools in the toolkit, but your primary tool when you hit a plateau or when you start to slow down as you lose weight is going to be to modulate those calories. So plateau with weight gain, add 10% each week until you start to see the scale move in the right direction. Inverse for weight loss, reduce by 10% until you see the scale start to move again. If you're at about the 12 to 16 week mark, you may need to take a break or go into a maintenance phase, which we'll talk about again in a subsequent lesson as well. So I hope this is helpful in letting you know how to kind of tweak things as you go, because rarely do we start and finish with the same exact set of numbers when you're in either a weight gain or weight loss phase.